Again, a quick introduction of our landing page of our latest version, how it looks. The next I'll cover is the default value setting feature, what it is and how do we create one. Multiple drafts available in our new feed in our latest version and what it caters. If we have time, we will definitely cover creating an extension on it. So let me share my screen for the UI. So when we come on our latest version's landing page, we will see a similar look as compared to the previous version. We have the main menu and we have the column on the left have the different locations we can reach for logs, batch management, creating a master agreement, which is pretty similar to what we have in our previous version. If we come on the landing page, just going back, we have the objects here, the master agreement, the contract, lease component, and activation group. The two differences that we will see instantly is that the records per page, we have a choice of having 50 records as compared to only having 10 in the previous version. And the only other difference I could say right now is if you have a contract and you need to access to the linked associated object, different object to it. So right now I'm looking at the activation group, and if you need to go to the contract which is linked to, we no longer need to click on the drop-down menu here as we had in the previous version. You'll be able to just click on contracts, and what is the linked version, it will bring us to the contract. So that was a super quick introduction of our landing page, how it looks and how do you access in between the multiple objects that we have available. I will switch back to my presentation. And we'll talk about the default value settings in our latest version. So what is default value setting? In our latest version, we are allowing the users to preset values for specific fields when creating objects, either for one user or all the users of the application. And below here, we see a quick snippet of the UI, where we see multiple settings that have been done at the default value setting main page. And we will go through in details different aspects of the configuration that needs to be done when we are setting up the default value setting. So what are the benefits of default value settings? The two benefits that we see that we have with this setting coming in the new latest version is that time saving. Since we have values that will be pre-populated, the user will save time and move on to the next task that needs to be done while creating lease. And same thing happens with the errors, the reducing errors that we have. You will no longer need to enter manually some values, as they'll be already predefined in the default value settings for certain target fields that you have selected. What types of default value settings we can have in our application? So we have two levels. One is the application level and the other one is the personal level. So application level settings will apply to all the users, whereas the personal level settings will apply to specific users. Users who have created them will have the visibility of the setting, as well as it will apply only to those users. So again, a snippet below shows us that we have three settings where we can see the level here is application level, and we can always toggle on the top if you want to see all the settings or just one setting. The next I would like to cover is who can set up the default values. So the roles assigned to you determines the type of the setting that you can view or create. If you are an admin role, then you can create and view the application level entries only. Whereas if you have the lease administrator, accountant, or a batch user role, you can create your personal level settings as well. You can create them, but you can only view the application and will not be able to modify or create the application level settings. How do you create the default value setting in our latest version? So we'll come to the main menu. I'll show you on the UI in a couple of minutes. Basically, you come to the main menu of our application. You'll come to the admin tab, admin icon on the main menu. We'll click on default, and once you're there, you'll be clicking on the plus icon to create a new default setting. So the 6 steps that we need to in order to create it is first and foremost, we need to decide what target field are we creating the setting for. The status will enable us to decide if are we enabling it or disabling it. You could enable at a later point if you want. It is the setting is modified. And then you have a controls that you need to decide if you would like it to be locked or editable. In the next slide, I will cover more details. And what is the default setting is giving us? Basically, we decide that for this target field, I would like to assign a particular value based on a condition. And we'll go through more in details in the next slides. As I mentioned before, locked and editable settings. So when you have to decide if you like to have a locked setting or editable setting, the word is self-explanatory. Basically, if you want to prevent anyone from changing any values for the target field, then we'll make it a locked setting. Whereas if you are allowing users to make changes to the values, then you can make it editable. What's the impact of choosing one or the other? The second impact would be that if you have a locked application setting that has been defined here, then if any user has their own personal settings, they will be overwritten. And the other way would be if we are making application level settings editable. In that case, the personal level settings will take precedence over that. What fields or what target fields, as we call them, we can set the default values for. So on our resource center, this is the address of the resource center. We can give you more information later. You can see more details of what settings, what fields, with what condition, and what may or may not additional information is available for you on it that you can set up the target field values for. Or when you actually come on the UI itself, you will see a drop-down menu as well. So I have listed here all the target values, the target field that can be set up for the master agreement, the contract, lease component, and activation group. So if I just come back to the UI, and I would like to show you, we come on the main menu as mentioned before, we click on the admin and the default value settings. So as I had shown you in the snippet that we have multiple settings that have been done on this solution right now, on this build. The most common ones that I think I can show you, which will click right away, is setting up a contract currency. So if I just want to show you, open up and show you this, I'm editing it, but if you want to create one, we can simply come here on the plus icon, as I mentioned before, to create one and show you one of the common ones that is used is a contract currency. So what are we doing here? I have a company that is in Europe, and we want to make sure that all the contracts created in it has the currency euro. So we decide that the contract currency for the company 3000 will always be euros. So in that way, when the user is creating a new contract, they need not select the option in the field. It will be pre-populated. They don't have to enter it manually. And you can create multiple settings for different for the contract currency if it's a different company. So right away, I can show you another example on the second last row here. We have another setting that has been done for Canadian dollars. And if I click here, I am sure it's going to be a Canadian company. So we see that a contract currency is a field is defined where if the company is Canadian, all the currencies, the contracts will be created in the Canadian currency. Another one that is very common is that if in a company you have all the leases that are fixed, you can decide and you can create it so that the question do not have to be answered. So if I show you here, by clicking here, I am saying I would like the questionnaires to be lease type determination. I would like to enable it. I can make it editable if the user wants to change it. And I would like to say all the contracts are based on, all the contracts are fixed and variable type, and I can submit it. Now, since I made it editable, if a user would like to change it and make it a service contract, they will have the option to. Or in the case, as I mentioned, if you would like to make it that, no, we do not want any of the contracts to be anything except fixed contracts, then we leave it at blocked. I will just delete this since we don't need this. Very easy. So I've covered the topic of default value configuration. Does anybody has a question?
No questions, Ruchika. Go on.
Sounds good. I will.
Just a quick reminder, me and Daria were here overseeing the chat. If you guys want to put comments, questions, please go ahead.
Just gonna come back. The next thing I want to cover is multiple drafts. In our latest version, we can create multiple drafts and also look at the schedules as well as the journal entries before we decide if you want to select one particular draft to be activated. So in this example, I can show you if originally at the inception, the contract has interest rate of 5%. And we have created 3 drafts just to show you if you've changed the rates, what will be the impact. In this snippet, I know it's a lot of snippets of schedules. The look of schedules has changed a bit as well, which I can cover in another session. We can see that at the inception level, the interest rate, effective interest rate is 5.1. And then on the draft 2, the event 2, I see that we have changed it to 8%, and then we have changed to 10% in the third draft. I can show you on the UI as well. Just to give you an example, each time you have draft, it shows you the different calculation that's going to have an impact, as well as not just looking at it, you can review it, export it, and compare it, although all column schedules, as well as you can actually look at the journal entries that it's going to create before you actually decide which draft you want to activate. So until you do not activate it, it will just show up as in an orange. I'll show you on the UI itself. How does it look? So in this example that I had mentioned before, I have 3 drafts here. And the only active level right now, the contract is right now at the activations, in the active status is with 5%. And now we have created 3 events where we have different rates. This is 6, 8, and 10. And if you want to check the schedules, that is, I'd taken a screenshot of. It's basically this. We can see, similar to our previous version, you have a green line here showing you when the event occurred. And now in our latest version, as you know, we can see the impact and the journal entries. If it creates it, it will be available here before the draft is actually activated. So now, for example, if I decide as a user that, okay, this is the impact that I wanted to see on my schedules. This draft number 3 is correct. You have two options to delete the other drafts. Once you activate one of the drafts, the two other drafts will automatically be deleted. Or if you no longer like any of the drafts, you can simply click on the cross, that circle there. The system's going to ask you, do you want to delete this draft? And you can simply say yes. Or, as I mentioned, if I am satisfied with the draft 3, I simply will go to my AG level and I will continue my workflow process and I will send it to assessment and activate the contract, the draft itself, and it will be merged with the active one. It'll become an active status. Does anybody have a question in regards to multiple drafts feature that we have and the option to view the schedules and the journal entries? Okay, I assume the answer is no. As I mentioned before, if you want to delete the drafts, you can simply click on the icon and it will get automatically deleted. Since we have time, we can create an extension. The example that I'm showing you here, the scenario I've taken, is that we have the first contract terms that I have already created it, and we like to extend the term. And I will show you how we do it on our latest version. So in our latest version, when we have to extend a contract, let's see the original terms that we have at the LC level. So currently I have, as shown before, a $10,000 payment amount, frequently monthly, and I have 45 months of payment terms. So it's starting and ending on, starting on Jan 1st and ending on September 30th. In the latest version, when you would like to add a term, we simply come to lease component level and we create an event. So it has to be in an active status. So we'll click on the icon here and we'll write extension or whatever name you would like to assign to it. Once you have done, if you have said submit, a draft is created automatically. You come on the terms and condition, and we'll be able to add a term now. I will select a base rent, and I'm selecting the same amount as my previous one. And my first payment date will be, since my last term ended on September 30th, I will start on October 1st. And I'm ending the term for, say, 1 year. So I will select it to be 2027. I'm sorry, my dates are wrong here. I will choose 2027, September 30th. Um, let me restart. I don't know why. Okay, I was supposed to select extension. and I'm extending it to 1 year, which will be 2027, September 30th. So we have to select extension on the terms and conditions. The first one, the will not be base rent. Okay, so we selected the type, payment term, extension, amount frequency to be paid is one time $10,000 on a monthly basis, starting for the 1 more year. I'm extending the contract for 12 months. And these are additional settings that you can complete if you have a special payment. For the first payment, if it's a special different payment than $10,000, you can click on this and you can write the amount and the date. If you have a last payment that you have a different amount with a different date and a different amount, it can be entered here. If you want to select the payments to be the last month of the day, you can select this. Since I'm using October 1st, I'm leaving it as is. And we also have escalating rent, which I'm not completing. So I'm going to click submit. And I'm going to send to approval. The system is going to give me a pop-up saying you're exercising out of the ROU range date, and this will remain as is. We will extend the date for our ROU range date in the activation group. Since we are the power user, we are able to also approve. And you can see the changes that you have done in the modification summary. So unlike the previous version, it's simpler to start, and you don't have to keep going back to the contract level to approve or to start an extension. You saw that we start with the lease component level. Now we see that at the lease component level, we have completed and we have our second term. And we also see that we have the different versions that is available right here on the top. It does not say the previous version. You will see all the different versions available to you that you have done any modification on the lease right here. So I'll go back down to the activation group. And the activation group is still at active status. There's no change. I will have to, in the latest version, create another event here because now in the terms and condition, I have the extension here appearing automatically once it has been activated on the lease component level. So the event I will do here now, what is that? It is going to be just reassessment, whereby I'm going to click on likely to exercise now. So I'll click on the event and I'll say extension, or you can assign a different name as you please. And we have to decide a modification date. So we decide we want to do the modification on September 1st. And we are going to say we just want to have the terms and condition reassess. I do not want to change my contract rate, and I submit. Now at the activation group level, we have a draft created, just like we had on the lease component. I will come to my terms and condition, and we will see that in our latest version that it splits. It splits the terms based on the date the modification was done. So we saw that the modification was done on September 1st, 2023. So it splits it. And now we're going to click on likely to exercise. And then I would like to generate my schedules. Oh, I'm sorry, make a mistake. I actually have to come and change my ROU date, as I mentioned before. So I'll come on a definition page, and I would like to change the date to be 2027-09-30. So I'm extending for a year. And then I'll come to the terms and condition, and then I'll click on likely to exercise, and then I'll be able to generate schedules. And now you can see there is no triangle here showing me error that your term is out of range. So now we can generate schedules. And we will see the schedule appearing here. In the meantime, if anybody has a question, please feel free to unmute your mic or you can enter in the chat. So if I show you an extension that was done on a different contract. Just want to check if it's created. Okay. Schedules are still being, okay, we have the schedule ready, so I can show you right here. So similar to our previous version, you will see that we have our green line on our schedules, and it was done, the modification was done on September 30th, September 1st. And then if we go further down on the all column schedule, we'll see the change on the liability adjustment, as well as we'll see adjustment on the ROU. As well as I mentioned before, we will be able to see on clicking this icon, it will give us the journal entry that will be posted even before you have accepted a draft. And if we are satisfied with what we are looking at, the calculation of the amounts, we simply come back on the activation group, clicking on the activation group name right here, and we'll send it to assessment. So basically now we just have to go to the regular process that we have. Once we have generated schedules, we send it to assessment. We confirm the classification and the modification date again. I will approve the pending assessments since I'm the admin power user. And we see the modification summary, which shows us for each tab what changes were applied. So we'll see in the terms and condition that we have extended our terms, the classification, schedules. You can see all the details before and after. And as an approver, I can approve. Next step would be to confirm the classification. Since we're not changing anything, our classification remains as is. And now I can activate the extension. If you're not satisfied at this point, you can click on rework or reject. Delta is basically what we had shown previously to you. And then I'm just going to click on activate since we have decided that September 1st is the modification date is correct. And once the draft becomes active, then the previous active version will become a revision and the current active draft will become actually active. So now we see that the draft has now changed into the active status, and we have the previous version as revision. So that is it in how we actually create an extension for an existing term. Does anybody have a question? So I do we already have a job aid for showing you snippets how to create an extension. If you would like, we can please send us an email and we can send it to you by email, or the CSM can provide you as well. So these are the steps that we need for the approval workflow for doing an extension we start at a lease component level, and then we do additional work on the activation group, similar to what we had previously. And these are the few snippets that I had shown you before on how to create new term at the lease component level and then at the activation group. So that's about it that I had prepared to show you on today's office hours. If anybody again have a question, please feel free to ask now. I've stopped sharing my screen.